The Japanese 25th Army was an army of the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II, noted for its role in the Malayan Campaign and the Battle of Singapore. History. The Japanese 25th Army was formed on 5 July 1941 under the Imperial General Headquarters. It was transferred to the control of the Japanese 7th Area Army under the Southern Expeditionary Army Group on 6 November 1941. Battle of Malaya. The Battle of Malaya began when the 25th Army launched an amphibious assault on the northern coast of British Malaya on 8 December 1941. Japanese troops landed at Kota Baru and advanced down the eastern coastline of the Malay Peninsula. This was made in conjunction with landings at Patani and Songkhla in Thailand, where units then proceeded south overland across the Thailand-Malayan border to attack the western portion of Malaya. The Japanese were initially resisted by 3rd Corps of the British Indian Army and several British Army battalions. The Japanese quickly isolated individual Indian units defending the coastline, before concentrating their forces to surround the defenders and force the surrender. The Japanese forces held a slight advantage in numbers on the ground in northern Malaya, and were significantly superior in close air support, armor, coordination, tactics and experience, with the Japanese units having fought in China. The Japanese also used bicycle infantry and light tanks, which allowed swift movement of the forces overland through the terrain that was covered with thick tropical rainforest. After defeating British and Indian troops at Chitra, Japanese forces supported by tanks moving south from Thailand on the 11th of December, overwhelming British defences. Penang was bombed daily by the Japanese from the 8th of December and abandoned on the 17th of December. Arms, birds, supplies and a working radio station were left in haste to the Japanese. The evacuation of Europeans from Penang, with local inhabitants being left to the mercy of the Japanese, caused much embarrassment for the British and alienated them from the local population. Kuala Lumpur fell unopposed on the 11th of January 1942. The 11th Indian Division managed to delay the Japanese advance at the Battle of Kampar for a few days, which was followed by the disastrous Slim River Battle, in which 2 Indian brigades were practically annihilated. By mid-January the Japanese had reached Johor, where on the 14th of January, they encountered troops from the Australian 8th Division, commanded by Major General Gordon Bennett, for the first time in the campaign. During engagements with the Australians, the Japanese experienced the first major tactical setback, due to the stubborn resistance put up by the Australians at Gemes. The battle, centered on the Gemes Bridge, proved costly for the Japanese, who suffered up to 600 casualties, but the bridge itself, which had been demolished during the fighting, was repaired within 6 hours. The Japanese attempted to outflank the Australians to the west of Gemes. One of the bloodiest battles of the campaign began on January 15 on the peninsula's west coast near the Muar River. Bennett allocated the weak 45th Indian Brigade to defend the river's south bank, but the unit was outflanked by Japanese units landing from the sea, and the brigade was effectively destroyed, with its commander, Brigadier H.C. Duncan, and all 3 of his battalion commanders killed. On the 20th of January, further Japanese landings took place at Endai, in spite of an air attack by wildebeest bombers. The final Commonwealth defensive line in Johor of Batu Patat Kluang Mersing was now being attacked along its full length. On the 27th of January 1942, Percival received permission from the commander of the American, British, Dutch, Australian Command, General Archibald Wavell, to order a retreat across the Johor Strait to the island of Singapore. Following the successful capture of Malaya and Singapore, the IJA 25th Army served primarily as a garrison force for the occupied territories. As the situation grew increasingly desperate of Japanese forces towards the middle of 1945, the IJA 25th Army came under the operational control of the Japanese 7th Area Army, and its headquarters was transferred to Bukittinggi in the highlands of central Sumatra, which it held until the surrender of Japan in August 1945. List of commanders.